The scanner beeped twice. Daniel Hayes froze, his hand still hovering over the security panel at the north gate of Kensington Palace. In 8 years of service with the Royal Protection Command, he'd learned to trust his instincts, and right now, every instinct was screaming that something was wrong. It was 4:37 p.m. on a Tuesday, the school run. Princess Charlotte's bus should have arrived 14 minutes ago, but the vehicle that had just passed through wasn't the usual transport. Daniel stepped out of the guardhouse, his boots clicking against the cobblestone. The black SUV was already disappearing around the curved driveway toward the residence. Standard diplomatic plates, but the scanner had flagged it. Wrong clearance code, wrong time slot. And he'd seen Charlotte's pink backpack through the tinted rear window. His radio crackled. "North Gate, this is Control. Confirm entry log for vehicle Echo 73. Daniel pressed the transmit button. "Control, I need verification on that vehicle. It's not on today's schedule." Silence. Then, "Stand by." He didn't stand by. He was already moving toward the guard station computer, pulling up the day's authorized transport list. His finger traced down the screen. There it was. Charlotte's return from Thomas's Battersea. Scheduled arrival, 4:23 p.m. Vehicle call sign, Echo 29. Driver, Martin Fowler, 23 years of service, vetted annually. Echo 73 wasn't on the list at all. Daniel's jaw tightened. He reached for his phone and dialed the school transport coordinator. 3 rings, 4. Finally, a voice answered. "Transport desk. This is Hayes, North Gate. I need immediate confirmation on Princess Charlotte's pickup today. Who was the authorized driver?" Papers shuffled on the other end. "Fowler, Martin Fowler, Echo 29, left the school at 4:11 p.m. Daniel's blood went cold. "And where is that vehicle now?" "Should be at Kensington by now. 17-minute route. I need you to contact Fowler immediately, confirm his location." "Is there a problem?" "Just do it now." Daniel ended the call and sprinted toward the residence. His mind was racing. If Fowler had Charlotte, then who the hell was in Echo 73, and why did that vehicle have Charlotte's backpack? He rounded the corner just as the SUV's doors opened. A driver stepped out. Not Fowler. Younger, maybe mid-30s, wearing the standard palace security uniform, but something about him was off. The fit wasn't quite right, the posture too casual. And then Charlotte emerged from the back seat. Daniel slowed his approach, trying to look routine. Charlotte's face was pale. Her eyes were red. She clutched her backpack against her chest like a shield. "Good afternoon, Your Royal Highness," Daniel said gently, then looked at the driver. "I don't believe we've met. Hayes, North Gate Security." The driver barely glanced at him. "Covering for Fowler today. He called in sick." "Funny, I just spoke to transport. They said Fowler made the pickup." The driver's expression didn't change, but his hand moved slightly toward his belt. "Must be a communication error. I got the call 2 hours ago." Daniel positioned himself between the driver and Charlotte. "Then you won't mind waiting here while I verify that with Control. I've got another assignment in 20 minutes. This will only take 5. The 2 men stared at each other. Charlotte stood perfectly still, her knuckles white around her backpack straps. That's when Daniel saw it. On Charlotte's left wrist, just visible beneath her school jacket sleeve, a red mark, fresh, like someone had gripped her too tightly. His training took over. He kept his voice calm, professional. "Princess Charlotte, would you mind waiting inside the entrance with me? I need to complete a routine security check on the vehicle." Charlotte's eyes met his for just a second. In that moment, he saw pure fear. She nodded quickly and moved toward him. The driver stepped forward. "That's not necessary. The vehicle's been cleared." Daniel's hand moved to his radio. "Then you'll have no problem with a standard inspection." The driver's jaw clenched. For 3 long seconds, Daniel thought the man might actually make a move, but then he stepped back, hands visible. Of course, whatever protocol requires. Daniel kept his body between Charlotte and the driver as he guided her toward the entrance. Another guard, Sarah Chen, was stationed at the door. Daniel caught her eye and gave a subtle hand signal. Code Amber, potential threat. She straightened immediately, her hand moving to her sidearm. "Sarah, please escort Princess Charlotte inside. I'll be conducting a vehicle inspection." Sarah moved smoothly to Charlotte's side. "Of course, come with me, Your Highness." As soon as they were inside, Daniel turned back to the driver. "I'm going to need your identification and your assignment authorization." The driver reached into his jacket. Daniel's hand hovered near his weapon, but the man only pulled out a wallet and a folded paper. "Here." Daniel examined the ID. James Morrison, Palace Security, Eastern Division. The photo matched. The credentials looked legitimate, but something still felt wrong. He unfolded the paper. It was an assignment sheet, dated today, signed by Captain Wells, head of Household Security. Fowler called in sick. Morrison covers school transport. Vehicle Echo 73 authorized. It all looked official, but Daniel's instincts were screaming. "I need to verify this with Captain Wells directly. Wait here." "I told you, I have another assignment, and I'm telling you to wait. This is a secured royal residence. Nobody moves until I'm satisfied." The driver's expression hardened, but he nodded. "Fine." Daniel walked back to the guardhouse, his mind spinning. He pulled out his phone and called Captain Wells' direct line. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. He tried again, same result. That was unusual. Wells always answered during operational hours. Daniel opened his laptop and accessed the internal security database. He typed in Morrison's ID number. The file came up immediately. James Morrison, 34, former Army, 3 years with Palace Security, clean record. Current assignment, Eastern Division, primarily Windsor Castle. But here was the problem. Windsor personnel didn't typically get reassigned to Kensington without advance notice, and they definitely didn't do school runs. Daniel pulled up the vehicle logs. Echo 73 was registered to the fleet, but its typical use was diplomatic transport, not royal family. And according to the GPS tracker embedded in all palace vehicles, Echo 73 had been at Windsor until 2:30 p.m. today. That gave Morrison barely enough time to drive to Thomas's Battersea and make the pickup. But why the rush? Why not use the scheduled driver and vehicle? Daniel's phone buzzed, a text from the transport coordinator. Fowler confirms he's on duty, currently returning to Palace with Princess Charlotte, ETA 3 minutes. Repeat, Fowler has Charlotte. Daniel's heart stopped. If Fowler had Charlotte, then who had just gotten out of Echo 73? He bolted from the guardhouse, hand on his radio. "All units, code red, unauthorized child impersonation. Secure vehicle Echo 73 and detain driver Morrison immediately." But when he reached the driveway, the SUV was already moving. Morrison had gotten back in and was heading toward the exit. Daniel ran after it, shouting into his radio, "Southgate, stop Echo 73. Do not let that vehicle leave the grounds." The SUV accelerated. Daniel reached for his sidearm, but held back. Too risky. If there was someone in that vehicle, if there was something, he couldn't risk gunfire. The SUV screeched around a corner. Daniel heard the Southgate guards shouting, saw them moving to block the exit with a security barrier. The vehicle swerved, tires squealing, then jerked to a stop inches from the barrier. Morrison jumped out, hands raised. What the hell is going on? Daniel reached him seconds later with weapon drawn.
On the ground, now. I followed procedure. Check the damn paperwork. On the ground or I will put you down. Morrison dropped to his knees, then to his stomach, hands behind his head. 2 other guards moved in, securing him with flex cuffs. Daniel approached the SUV, his weapon still drawn. He yanked open the rear door. Empty. No child, no second person, just a pink backpack on the seat. Daniel grabbed it, unzipped it. Inside, textbooks, a pencil case, a lunch container, and a small folded note on cream-colored stationery. He recognized the watermark immediately, royal household paper. He unfolded it with gloved hands. The message was brief, written in elegant cursive. C needs special appointment. Dr. Morrison, private clinic, Harrow, 4:45 p.m.
Did anyone at school give you anything, a note or a message? No. She looked frightened now. Is something wrong? Daniel forced a smile. Just a security check. Everything's fine. But everything was not fine. Someone had created an elaborate deception. To do what? Get a child, or something posing as a child, into the palace under the pretense of being Princess Charlotte? Or had the plan been to extract the real Charlotte on false pretenses? Daniel's radio crackled. "Hayes, this is Control. Captain Wells wants you in his office immediately." Daniel stood, his jaw tight. "On my way." He handed the fake backpack to Sarah Chen. "Log this as evidence, document everything, and keep Princess Charlotte in your sight until her parents are notified." Sarah nodded. "What's happening, Daniel?" "I don't know yet, but someone just tried to use the Queen Consort's authority." Did anyone at school give you anything, a note or a message? No. She looked frightened now. Is something wrong? Daniel forced a smile. Just a security check. Everything's fine. But everything was not fine. Someone had created an elaborate deception. To do what? Get a child, or something posing as a child, into the palace under the pretense of being Princess Charlotte? Or had the plan been to extract the real Charlotte on false pretenses? Daniel's radio crackled. "Hayes, this is Control. Captain Wells wants you in his office immediately." Daniel stood, his jaw tight. "On my way." He handed the fake backpack to Sarah Chen. "Log this as evidence, document everything, and keep Princess Charlotte in your sight until her parents are notified." Sarah nodded. "What's happening, Daniel?" "I don't know yet, but someone just tried to use the Queen Consort's authority to manipulate a child's security detail." He walked toward the administrative wing, his mind racing through scenarios. Best case, this was a misunderstanding, a legitimate appointment that Morrison had bungled. Worst case, someone inside the royal household had just attempted a kidnapping. Captain Wells's office was on the 2nd floor. He knocked once and entered without waiting for a response. Wells was behind his desk, his face unreadable. "Close the door, Hayes." Daniel did. "Sir, we have a situation. I'm aware. Morrison is in holding, the vehicle's been impounded, and you've created a significant incident based on what exactly?" Daniel felt ice in his stomach. "Based on an unauthorized vehicle using an incorrect call sign, an incorrect driver, and carrying what appears to be a forged royal note authorizing a secret medical appointment for Princess Charlotte." Wells leaned back in his chair. That note was not forged. It was issued this morning by the Queen Consort's private secretary. The appointment was legitimate. Morrison was following orders. Then why wasn't it on the official schedule? Why wasn't the family informed? Why use a decoy backpack? The decoy was a security measure. The Queen Consort had concerns about unauthorized surveillance of the princess's medical matters. The plan was to send Morrison with a decoy while the real princess took her normal route home. It was meant to confuse potential paparazzi or security threats.
Daniel stared at his superior. That violates at least 6 operational protocols. Decoy operations require approval from the principal protection officers and the family members themselves. Did Prince William authorize this? Wells's expression hardened. The Queen Consort has authority over household security measures, not over the direct safety of the Prince and Princess of Wales's children. That authority rests with their parents. You're out of line, Hayes. No, sir. With respect, someone else is, and I need to know if Prince William and Princess Catherine are aware that their daughter was the subject of an unauthorized security operation involving a fake medical appointment. Wells stood slowly. You need to be very careful about what you're suggesting. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm asking a direct question. Does the family know? Silence. Then Wells walked to his window, hands behind his back. The Queen Consort believed it was in everyone's best interest to handle certain medical consultations discreetly. Sometimes parents can be overly cautious, especially when it comes to routine matters. Daniel felt his anger rising. What medical consultation? Charlotte just got out of the real transport. She's perfectly fine. There was no child in Morrison's vehicle. Wells turned to him. The appointment was precautionary. The Queen Consort had concerns about the princess's recent behavior. A child psychologist was arranged for a brief assessment. When Morrison arrived at the school, the plan changed. The decision was made to postpone. Who made that decision? I'm not at liberty to say. Captain, I need to report this to the Principal Protection Command. This violates. You will do no such thing. Wells's voice was steel now. This matter is being handled internally. Morrison followed orders issued through proper channels. No child was harmed. No actual security breach occurred. What did occur was a loyal guard overreacting and creating an international incident over a routine protective measure. Daniel couldn't believe what he was hearing. Routine? Sir, someone tried to intercept a royal child without parental knowledge using forged credentials. Not forged, authorized, by someone who doesn't have the authority. Careful, Hayes. Wells moved closer, his voice dropping. You've been an excellent guard. 8 years of exemplary service, decorated military background. I'd hate to see your career end because you couldn't recognize when a situation was above your clearance level. The threat was clear. Daniel felt his pulse pounding in his ears. Are you ordering me not to report this? I'm advising you that the matter is closed. Morrison will be reassigned. The note will be filed. The family will be informed that a minor scheduling confusion occurred, and you will return to your post. Understood? Daniel looked at his captain for a long moment. He thought about his career, his pension, his reputation, everything he'd worked for. Then he thought about Charlotte's face when she stepped out of that vehicle, the fear in her eyes, the red mark on her wrist. No, sir, not understood. Wells's expression turned cold. Then you leave me no choice. You're suspended pending a disciplinary review. Badge and sidearm, now. Daniel unclipped his badge slowly, placed it on Wells's desk, then his weapon and radio. This isn't over. Yes, Hayes, it is. You're dismissed. Daniel walked out of the office, his mind racing. He'd just ended his career, but he'd also just confirmed something crucial. This went higher than a rogue security officer. This had protection from the top, which meant Charlotte was still in danger. He pulled out his personal phone as soon as he was outside the administrative building. There was one person in the palace he trusted, absolutely. Jamie Cho, camera operations specialist. They'd served together in Afghanistan before joining palace security. If anyone could help him figure out what was really happening, it was Jamie. He sent a text. Need to see camera footage from today. North entrance, 3:30 to 4:45. Urgent. The response came 30 seconds later. Heard you got suspended. Bad idea to talk to you. Daniel typed back. Charlotte's safety is at stake. Please. 3 minutes passed. Then, service tunnel, 20 minutes. Come alone. Daniel headed for the service tunnel entrance, a discreet door hidden behind a maintenance building. He checked over his shoulder, then slipped inside. The tunnels ran beneath the entire palace complex, used by staff to move between buildings without being seen by visitors or press. Jamie was waiting 30 yards in, a tablet computer in his hands. His expression was grim. You're going to want to see this. Jamie tapped the screen, pulling up security footage. This is from 2 weeks ago, West Entrance camera. The footage showed a woman approaching the checkpoint. Not just any woman, the Queen Consort herself, accompanied by a single aide. They were admitted without incident. Okay, Daniel said. What am I looking at? Jamie fast-forwarded. Watch what happens 40 minutes later. The same camera angle, Camilla and her aide, leaving. But now there's a third person with them, a child-sized figure, completely obscured by a large coat and hood. Could be anyone, Daniel said. Could be, except for this. Jamie swiped to a different camera. North Garden, 15 minutes after they left the building. This footage was grainier, shot from a greater distance, but Daniel could make out 3 figures on a bench. Camilla, the aide, and the small figure. The hood had been pushed back. It was Charlotte. Daniel's blood ran cold. When was this? November 3rd, 3:15 p.m. Was she scheduled to be with the Queen Consort that day? Jamie shook his head. I checked the family calendar. That afternoon, Charlotte was supposed to be at a school friend's birthday party.
The footage showed a service entrance Daniel rarely used. A vehicle pulled up, not a palace vehicle, a private sedan with civilian plates. The driver got out, opened the rear door, and a child emerged. Same size as Charlotte, same hair color, wearing a Commiss's Battersea school uniform. That child got into the palace 30 minutes before Morrison arrived with the fake backpack, Jamie said quietly, which means the plan wasn't to extract Charlotte under false pretenses. The plan was to insert a double and extract them later using Morrison as cover. Daniel's mind was reeling. But why? What's the point of substituting Charlotte with a double inside her own home? I don't know, but whatever the reason, your stumbling onto Morrison's pickup ruined the extraction, which means that double is still somewhere in the palace right now. And the real Charlotte? Also in the palace, returned with Fowler like normal, which means right now there are 2 children who look like Princess Charlotte inside these walls. Daniel grabbed Jamie's arm. We need to find both of them now, and we need to figure out which one is real. Daniel, if we're wrong about this, if there's some innocent explanation, we'll both be fired and possibly arrested. And if we're right and we do nothing, what happens to Charlotte? Jamie stared at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. The real Charlotte should be in the family quarters right now, after school homework routine, usually in the library or her room. Let me check the current camera feeds. He pulled up a live feed from the family wing. The library was visible, along with a small figure sitting at a desk, working on papers, pink backpack beside her chair. That's her current location, Jamie confirmed. Been there for 22 minutes. And the double? Jamie's fingers flew across the tablet. He pulled up a dozen different camera angles, scanning quickly. There, Queen Consort's private study, East Wing, 2nd floor. The image was partially obscured, but Daniel could make out 2 figures, Camilla and a child in a school uniform. Can you get audio? Jamie shook his head. Those rooms have camera coverage for security purposes, but no audio monitoring, privacy protocols for senior royals. Daniel watched the silent footage. Camilla was sitting across from the child, speaking.
The child's body language was wrong, stiff, uncomfortable. At one point, Camilla reached out and touched the child's hand. The child flinched. "I need to get in there," Daniel said. "You're suspended. If you're caught in the family areas without authorization, you'll be arrested. Then I'll need to not get caught. Can you create a blind spot in the camera coverage?" Jamie hesitated. "I could trigger a false maintenance alert. That would give you maybe 5 minutes before someone notices." "Do it. And Jamie, if this goes wrong, you never saw me. Understood?" "Like hell. If you're going, I'm providing overwatch." Jamie pulled out a second tablet. "I can guide you through the least monitored route and give you advance warning if anyone's coming." Daniel clasped his friend's shoulder. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. If we're right about this, we're about to accuse the Queen Consort of child trafficking or impersonation. That's not exactly a career-enhancing move. I didn't join the protection service to enhance my career. I joined it to protect people who can't protect themselves." Jamie managed a tight smile. "Yeah, that's what I figured you'd say. All right, let's do this before I come to my senses. Head west through the service corridor. There's a staff stairwell that'll get you to the second floor. Go." Daniel moved quickly through the tunnels, following Jamie's directions through his phone's earpiece. His heart was pounding. Everything in his training told him this was insane. He had no authority, no backup, no weapon. If he was wrong, his life was over. If he was right, the scandal would shake the monarchy to its foundation. But none of that mattered as much as the image of Charlotte's frightened face burned into his memory. He reached the staff stairwell and climbed to the second floor. The East Wing was traditionally used by senior royals for private offices and personal spaces. Security here was tight, but most of it was electronic, cameras and badge readers rather than physical guards. "You've got about 3 minutes," Jamie's voice said in his earpiece. "Camilla's study is 40 yards ahead, third door on the left. I'm showing 2 people still inside." Daniel moved down the corridor, keeping close to the wall. His suspended badge wouldn't open doors, but Jamie had promised to unlock them remotely when needed. He reached the door, pressed his ear against it, muffled voices inside. "Jamie, I need this door." "Working on it, bypassing the lock now." "Done. But Daniel, once you open that door, there's no going back." Daniel took a breath. Then he turned the handle and walked in. The room fell silent. Camilla looked up from her chair, her expression shifting from surprise to outrage in an instant. "What is the meaning of this? You have no authorization to be here." Daniel ignored her. His eyes were on the child sitting across from her. Up close, the resemblance to Charlotte was remarkable, but not perfect. The eyes were slightly different. The way she held herself was wrong. "Who are you?" Daniel asked the child gently. The child looked terrified. She glanced at Camilla, who stood up abruptly. "Leave immediately, or I will have you arrested." Daniel kept his focus on the child. "It's okay. You're not in trouble. I just need to know your name." "Don't say anything," Camilla snapped at the child. Then to Daniel, "You are suspended from duty. You have no authority here. This is a private family matter." "This child is not family." Daniel moved closer, kneeling to the girl's level. "What's your name, sweetheart?" The girl's lip trembled. "Emma." "Emma what?" "Shut up." Camilla's voice was sharp, more rattled than Daniel had ever heard her. "Emma, go to the adjoining room now." But Emma didn't move. She was staring at Daniel with desperate eyes. "I want to go home. She said I could go home today." Daniel felt his chest tighten. "Where is home, Emma?" "That is enough." Camilla reached for the phone on her desk. "Security, I need immediate assistance in my private study. An intruder has—" Daniel moved quickly, pressing the disconnect button on the phone. Before you call anyone, Your Majesty, you should know that every camera in this wing has been documenting this conversation, and that footage is being stored in multiple secure locations as we speak. It was a bluff. Jamie had disabled the cameras to give Daniel access, but Camilla didn't know that. Her hand froze. You're lying. Am I? Want to test that theory, because I'm betting when Prince William sees footage of his daughter's double being held in your private study, he's going to have questions, a lot of them. Camilla's face had gone pale. For several seconds she just stood there calculating. Then she moved to the door, locked it from the inside, and turned back to Daniel with an expression of cold fury. You have no idea what you've stumbled into. Then explain it to me. Why do you have a child impersonating Princess Charlotte? I'm protecting her. From what? From herself, from mistakes, from the kind of public scrutiny that destroyed Diana. Charlotte is 7 years old. She's already being photographed, analyzed, criticized. Every outfit, every expression, every moment she has in public is dissected by millions of people. Do you have any idea what that does to a child? Daniel kept his voice level. So you replaced her with a double. How does that protect anyone? The double handles the mundane public obligations, the photo opportunities, the tedious ceremonial appearances. Charlotte gets to be a child in private. She gets to have bad days, make mistakes, have tantrums, all without the world watching and judging. Does William know about this? Camilla's silence was answer enough. He doesn't, Daniel said. You've been secretly substituting his daughter without his knowledge or consent. That's not protection. That's kidnapping. Don't be absurd. Charlotte is perfectly safe in the family quarters. Emma only appears when necessary, and always with supervision. Emma is a child. You're using her to deceive the public and Charlotte's own family. How did you even find her? Camilla moved back to her chair, her composure returning. Emma's mother works in the palace administrative offices. When I noticed the resemblance, I approached her with an opportunity. Emma's family receives generous compensation. Emma herself receives education, experiences, and opportunities she would never have otherwise. It's beneficial for everyone. Except Charlotte, who has an imposter living her life without her knowledge, and Emma, who's being exploited. Emma is here voluntarily. Her mother consented to everything. Emma is 9 years old. She can't consent to this, and her mother doesn't have the right to sell her daughter's identity to protect children from being used as pawns.
You self-righteous fool, you have no idea how this family works. We make sacrifices for the institution. We do what's necessary to preserve the crown. That sometimes means making decisions that others won't understand. I understand perfectly. You're willing to use children to protect your own image and control the narrative around this family. Daniel moved toward Emma, offering his hand. Come on, sweetheart, let's get you home. Emma stood, then hesitated, looking at Camilla. What about my mum's job? Camilla's smile was cold. If you leave with him, Emma, your mother won't have a job tomorrow. Your family won't have the flat we've provided, the school we've been paying for, gone. Everything we've given you will disappear. Is that what you want? Emma's face crumpled. Daniel felt rage boiling in his chest. You're threatening a child? I'm explaining consequences. Emma is old enough to understand that actions have repercussions. Aren't you, Emma? Daniel knelt beside Emma again. Listen to me. What she's doing is wrong. Your mum will be okay. There are laws protecting people from retaliation. But right now, I need you to be brave and come with me. Can you do that? Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. She took Daniel's hand.
"This is your last chance, Hayes," Camilla said quietly. "Walk out that door with her, and you've made an enemy of the Crown. Your life will never be the same." Daniel met her eyes. "I can live with that. Can you live with exploiting children?" He turned toward the door, Emma's hand in his free hand reached for the lock. That's when his earpiece crackled with Jamie's urgent voice. "Daniel, we've got a problem. William Wales just entered the palace. He's heading for the family quarters. ETA 3 minutes, and Captain Wells is with him." Daniel froze. Wells was with William, which meant Wells was either going to brief the prince on the misunderstanding from today, or William had already been told about Daniel's suspension and was coming to deal with the situation himself. Either way, Daniel had about 3 minutes to get Emma to safety and explain to the future King of England why he'd just accused the Queen Consort of child exploitation. "Jamie, can you intercept them? Buy me time." "Not without making things worse. Daniel, you need to get Emma out of the East Wing now. If William sees her and doesn't know about the double situation—" "I know. I'm moving." Daniel unlocked the door and stepped into the corridor, Emma still holding his hand. "Camilla, you're coming with us. We're going to talk to William together." "I will do no such thing." Daniel turned back. "Then I'll tell him everything, and you can explain your absence however you want. But one way or another, he's finding out today." Camilla stared at him for a long moment. Then she straightened her jacket, her expression becoming a mask of royal composure. "Very well, but you're making a catastrophic mistake." They moved quickly through the corridor. Daniel's mind was racing through how to handle this. He needed William to see Emma and understand the deception before Wells had a chance to spin the narrative. He needed— "Jamie," voice was urgent in his ear. "William just changed direction. He's heading toward the East Wing, toward you. How long? 90 seconds, maybe less." There was no time to reach an exit. Daniel made a decision. He pulled Emma and Camilla into a side room, a small sitting area used by staff, and locked the door behind them. "What are you doing?" Camilla demanded. "Giving myself time to think." Daniel pulled out his phone and opened his messaging app. He had one card left to play. He'd never used it before, never wanted to, but protocol required all protection officers to have emergency contact information for their principals in case of immediate danger. He pulled up the contact, Prince William, Principal Protection Priority Line. He typed, "Sir, this is Daniel Hayes, Northgate Security. There is a situation involving Princess Charlotte's safety that requires your immediate personal attention. I'm in the East Wing staff sitting room with evidence you need to see. Please come alone." 30 seconds passed. Then a response. "Hayes, you're suspended. What's this about?" Daniel typed, "Someone has been impersonating Princess Charlotte. I have the double with me now. Also present, Queen Consort. Situation is secure, but urgent." 20 seconds. Then, "Stay where you are. I'm coming. 2 minutes." Daniel exhaled slowly. Camilla had gone very pale. "You just contacted William directly. That violates a dozen protocols." "So does secretly replacing his daughter with a body double. I think we're well past protocol." Emma was crying silently now, pressed against the wall. Daniel knelt beside her. "Emma, in a minute, Charlotte's father is going to come through that door. He's going to be very confused and probably very upset, but none of this is your fault, okay? You haven't done anything wrong." Emma nodded, not looking convinced. The next 2 minutes felt like hours. Daniel could hear Camilla's breathing, sharp and controlled. She was composing herself, preparing her defense. He wondered what explanation she'd come up with, what spin she'd try to put on this. Then footsteps in the corridor, a sharp knock on the door. "Hayes, it's William." Daniel unlocked the door and opened it. Prince William stood there, still in his suit from whatever engagement he was attending. His expression was hard, controlled. Behind him, Daniel could see Captain Wells and another protection officer. "I said come alone," Daniel said quietly. "And I said you're suspended. You don't give me orders." William's eyes moved past Daniel, taking in the scene. Camilla standing by the window, and Emma pressed against the wall, looking terrified. William's expression changed instantly. Confusion, recognition, disbelief. "What? Who is that?" "Her name is Emma, sir. She's 9 years old, and for the past 2 months she's been impersonating Princess Charlotte at public events." William stared at Emma, then at Camilla. "That's not possible." "It's a gross mischaracterization," Camilla said smoothly. "Emma is a child who bears a resemblance to Charlotte. I've been mentoring her as part of a palace youth program. Hayes has jumped to absurd conclusions." "Then explain this." Daniel pulled out his phone, opening the photos Jamie had sent him earlier. Security footage showing Emma's arrivals, the garden meetings, today's service entry. These images show Emma being brought into the palace secretly, meeting with the Queen Consort, and being present during times when Charlotte was supposedly at school or public events. William took the phone, swiping through the images. His jaw was clenched. "Where did you get these?" "Palace security cameras. Jamie Cho, camera operations, pulled them for me when I noticed irregularities in today's school transport." "What irregularities?" Daniel explained everything. Morrison's pickup, the fake backpack, the note authorizing a secret medical appointment, the discovery that Charlotte had been home safe while Emma was in the palace, Wells's attempt to shut down the investigation. William's expression grew darker with every sentence. When Daniel finished, William turned to his protection officer. "Get Charlotte. Bring her here, now." The officer nodded and left quickly. William looked at Wells. "Did you know about this?" Wells's face was impassive. "I knew the Queen Consort had a youth mentoring program. I was not aware of the full extent." "That's a lie," Daniel interrupted. "Sir, Captain Wells specifically ordered me to stand down from investigating. He called it a routine protective measure authorized by the Queen Consort." William's eyes never left Wells. "Is that true, Captain?" Wells hesitated. "The Queen Consort expressed concerns about Princess Charlotte's public exposure. I was informed that measures were being taken to reduce the frequency of her appearances. I assumed." "You assumed?" William's voice was dangerously quiet. "You assumed it was acceptable for my daughter to be secretly replaced by a double without consulting me or her mother?" "Sir, I believed it was handled through proper channels. There are no proper channels for this. The only channel is me and Catherine. We are Charlotte's parents. We decide what happens to our daughter. Not you, not anyone else." He turned to Camilla. "Explain, now." Camilla lifted her chin. "I was protecting her. Charlotte is a sensitive child. The constant scrutiny, the pressure. I've seen what it does. I saw it destroy Diana. I won't let it happen to another generation." "So you replaced her with an impersonator, without our knowledge, without our consent?" "I gave you plausible deniability. If the arrangement were ever discovered, you could truthfully say you knew nothing about it." "I don't want plausible deniability. I want my daughter's life to be her own." William's composure was cracking. How many times, how many events did Emma attend pretending?
"Charlotte has been showing signs of anxiety. You thought you'd manipulate a medical professional into evaluating a different child and apply those results to Charlotte. That's not just unethical, it's insane." The door opened. The protection officer returned with Charlotte, the real Charlotte, still wearing her school uniform, looking confused and a little scared. "Papa, what's happening? Why is—" She stopped, staring at Emma. "Who is that?" The two girls looked at each other. The resemblance was striking, but now, side by side, the differences were obvious. Emma was slightly taller, her nose was different, her expressions were practiced, controlled. Charlotte moved closer to her father. "Papa, why does she look like me?" William pulled Charlotte close, his hand protective on her shoulder. "That's what we're figuring out, sweetheart." He looked at Daniel. "Hayes, take Emma to the family medical office. Have Dr. Sanders check her over, make sure she's not hurt. Then find her mother. I want to speak to both of them." "Yes, sir." "And Hayes, when this is over, come find me. We need to talk about your suspension." Daniel nodded and gently guided Emma toward the door. As he passed William, he heard the prince say quietly, "Thank you." In the corridor, Emma was shaking. Daniel knelt beside her. "You did really well in there, Emma. I know that was scary." "Is Charlotte's papa angry at me?" "No. He's angry at the situation. He's angry that adults put you in an impossible position, but he's not angry at you. What's going to happen to my mum? I don't know yet, but Prince William is a fair man. If your mum was pressured or manipulated into this, he'll understand that. The important thing is you're safe now." He walked Emma to the medical office, where Dr. Sanders, a kind woman in her 50s, took over with gentle competence. Then Daniel went to find Emma's mother, whose name he learned was Grace Hartley, an assistant in the Palace Records Department. Grace was a small woman with tired eyes and worry lines. When Daniel explained that her daughter was safe, but that her arrangement with the Queen Consort had been exposed, she started crying. "I didn't want to do it. She said it was an honor, that Emma would have opportunities, and the money. We needed the money. My husband died 2 years ago. Medical bills from his cancer wiped out our savings. When the Queen Consort offered £20,000 and a better flat, I thought it was a blessing." Did she explain what Emma would actually be doing? She said Emma would attend some events as a companion to Princess Charlotte, that she'd help Charlotte feel more comfortable in public. By then, we'd already signed papers, we'd already taken the money and moved into the flat, and she said if I backed out, I'd have to repay everything and I'd lose my job. That's coercion, Mrs. Hartley. You and Emma are victims here, not accomplices. Will they arrest me? I don't know. That's not my decision, but I'll make sure Prince William knows you were manipulated into this." Daniel left her in the medical office with Emma and made his way back toward the East Wing. He wasn't sure if he was still needed, but he'd been given orders to return, and he was going to follow them. He found Jamie Cho waiting in the corridor. "Well, you did it. You actually pulled it off. The whole palace is buzzing. Security lockdown, senior staff being interviewed, legal team assembling. It's chaos. Is Emma safe? Protected like the crown jewels. William's got 3 guards on her and her mother. He's not taking chances. And Camilla?" Jamie's expression was grim. "I'm hearing raised voices through the door. This isn't going to blow over quietly." Daniel leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline that had carried him through the last 2 hours was draining away, leaving him shaky and drained. What happens now? To you, no idea. You violated about 50 protocols, accessed restricted areas, and accused the Queen Consort of child exploitation. On the other hand, you were right about everything and probably prevented something terrible. It could go either way. And Charlotte, with her mother, Catherine arrived about 20 minutes ago. Well, let's just say the temperature in that wing could freeze water. They waited. Staff members passed by, giving them curious looks. Word was spreading fast. Within hours, the entire palace would know something major had happened. 40 minutes later, the door to the conference room opened. Prince William emerged, his expression exhausted but controlled. He spotted Daniel and walked over. "Hayes, my office now." Daniel followed William to a small private office 2 doors down. William closed the door behind them and gestured to a chair. Daniel sat. William remained standing, arms crossed.
8 years of exemplary service, decorated military background, multiple commendations, and today you threw all of that away to investigate a suspicion. Yes, sir. You violated direct orders from your superior officer. You accessed restricted areas without authorization. You confronted a senior member of the royal family. You made contact with me through emergency channels reserved for immediate physical threats. Yes, sir. Tell me why. Daniel met William's eyes. Because Charlotte was afraid, sir. When she got out of Morrison's vehicle, she was terrified. She had marks on her wrist, and every instinct I have told me she was in danger. I couldn't ignore that, even if I was wrong, even if it cost me everything. William was quiet for a long moment. Then he moved to the window, looking out at the palace grounds. He turned back to Daniel. I hired protection officers to keep my family safe, to see threats I can't see, to trust their instincts even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. He turned back to Daniel. You did exactly what I hired you to do. You saw a threat. You investigated despite resistance from your chain of command. You protected my daughter when you thought she was in danger. That's not a violation. That's what duty looks like. Daniel felt something unwind in his chest. Sir, your suspension is lifted effective immediately. You'll receive a formal commendation for your actions today, and I'm recommending you for a promotion to the Principal Protection Team. I don't need a promotion, sir. I just need to know Charlotte is safe. William's expression softened slightly. She is, thanks to you, and she knows it. He paused. She wants to thank you herself. Would that be all right? Of course, sir. William opened the door and gestured to someone in the hallway. A moment later, Charlotte entered, holding her mother's hand. Catherine gave Daniel a profound gratitude. Charlotte approached Daniel shyly. Mr. Hayes, my papa said you helped me today. Daniel knelt to her level. Just doing my job, Your Highness. Papa said someone was pretending to be me, and you figured it out. You helped. When you looked at me this afternoon, I could see you were frightened. That's what made me investigate. Charlotte was quiet for a moment. Then she stepped forward and hugged him quickly. Thank you for keeping me safe. Daniel felt a lump in his throat. Always, Your Highness. That's what we're here for. After Charlotte and Catherine left, William gestured for Daniel to sit again. There's going to be an investigation, internal and possibly external. The Queen Consort has agreed to cooperate fully. Emma and her mother are being relocated to secure housing with financial support and counseling. We're working with legal counsel to determine if criminal charges are appropriate. What about Captain Wells? He's suspended pending investigation. If it's determined he knowingly facilitated child exploitation, he'll face criminal charges. If he was manipulated or deceived, that will be taken into account. William ran his hand through his hair, looking suddenly older. This is going to be messy, Hayes. The family dynamics, the public relations, the potential security implications. It's going to take weeks, maybe months to sort out. I understand, sir. But Charlotte is safe. That's what matters. That's what always matters. William extended his hand. Thank you, truly. Daniel shook his hand. Just doing my duty, sir. If this story showed you something about royal guards you didn't know, make sure you're subscribed to Crown Watch. We share these untold stories from inside the palace every single day. Drop a comment. Would you have risked your career to investigate, or would you have trusted your superiors? We'll see you in the next story. 3 weeks later, Daniel Hayes stood at his post at the North Gate, watching the afternoon traffic flow in and out of Kensington Palace. The weather was turning colder, the first hints of winter settling over London. A lot had changed in those 3 weeks. Captain Wells had been formally dismissed from service, though criminal charges were ultimately not filed. The investigation concluded he'd been negligent, but not actively malicious. Camilla had issued a private apology to William and Catherine, though the details were kept strictly within the family. Public announcements mentioned a reorganization of household security protocols and nothing more. Emma and her mother were settled in a small house in Surrey, with a trust fund established to support Emma's education and counseling. Daniel had visited them once, bringing books and a teddy bear.
Charlotte herself seemed largely unaffected, protected by her parents' careful handling of the situation. She'd waved to Daniel yesterday from a car window, a bright, carefree gesture that told him she was going to be okay. His promotion had gone through. He was now part of the principal protection team, assigned directly to the Wales family. It meant more responsibility, longer hours, and closer proximity to the very people he'd sworn to protect. It also meant he'd been right to trust his instincts. Jamie Chu appeared beside him, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you could use this?" Daniel accepted the cup gratefully. "Thanks. Quiet day?" "Aren't they all until they're not?" Jamie grinned. "Though maybe we could go a few weeks without international incidents involving child doubles and rogue queen consorts. I'll do my best." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the gates. Then Jamie said, "You know what strikes me about all this? How close it came to never being discovered. If you hadn't noticed Charlotte's expression, if you hadn't pushed back against Wells, if you'd just let it go like you were told to." Daniel nodded slowly. "That's what scares me most. How many other things are happening that nobody's noticing? How many other situations where people are told to look the other way, and they do? Well, that's why they need people like you, people who won't look away even when it's easier. Or stupider." Daniel laughed. "Yeah, that too." A vehicle approached the gate. Daniel checked the authorization automatically, verified the occupant, waved them through. Normal procedure, normal day. But he'd learned that normal could hide extraordinary evil, and that vigilance wasn't just about watching for external threats. Sometimes the danger came from within. Later that evening, after his shift ended, Daniel received a message on his secure phone. It was from Prince William. "Charlotte would like you to join us for tea tomorrow afternoon, informal, just to say thank you properly, if you're available." Daniel smiled and typed back, "I'd be honored, sir." He pocketed his phone and walked through the palace grounds toward the staff exit. The lights were coming on in the windows, warm against the gathering darkness. Somewhere in those rooms, a little girl was doing her homework, or playing with her siblings, or reading a story before bed, living her life, being herself. That's what it was all about, really. Letting children be children, protecting them not just from external threats, but from the people who would use them as tools or symbols or pawns in their own games. Daniel had spent 8 years learning to watch for dangers from outside the palace walls. In one afternoon, he'd learned that sometimes the greatest dangers came from within, from people who believed their authority gave them the right to make decisions about other people's lives, from people who thought they knew better than parents what was best for their children. He thought about the choice he'd made, to investigate despite orders, to risk his career, to trust his instincts even when everyone was telling him he was wrong. Would he do it again? Without hesitation. Because duty wasn't about following orders blindly. It was about protecting the vulnerable, even when, especially when, that meant standing up to power. As he passed through the final security checkpoint, Daniel looked back at the palace, its windows glowing in the twilight. Inside those walls, decisions were made that affected millions of people. Power and tradition and history all lived together in an ancient dance of protocol and precedent. But underneath all of that, there were just people, parents trying to protect their children, kids trying to grow up safe,
guards like him trying to keep the dangerous world at bay. Sometimes that meant watching the gates, sometimes it meant breaking the rules, but it always meant choosing people over protocol, choosing what was right over what was easy. Daniel turned toward home, satisfied that tonight, at least, everyone inside those walls was safe. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new threats, new decisions. But tonight, Charlotte was safe in her home, being herself, protected by people who put her well-being above everything else. And really, that's what it all was about. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is trust our instincts when everyone tells us we're wrong. Sometimes protecting the innocent means risking everything we've worked for. Would you have done the same, or would you have followed orders? Drop your thoughts below. Next time, a palace maid discovers a hidden room behind a portrait in the Queen's private chambers. What she finds inside will reveal a secret the royal family has kept buried for 70 years.